Now let's think about tracing matter and energy through biological systems. Matter and energy will both exist at the same time in these systems, but they do not convert into one another. Matter can change into other forms of matter, energy can change into other forms of energy, but matter and energy will never convert into each other in biological systems. Because of this, think about matter and energy separately for the following slides. Let's think about matter, or atoms, in an ecosystem. In this ecosystem, carbon atoms from carbon dioxide are converted into sugars by grass. Carbon was transformed from carbon dioxide into sugar. A grasshopper ate that grass, and carbon from the sugars was digested and assimilated into the tissues inside the grasshopper. A bird ate that grasshopper. The carbon that was assimilated into the grasshopper was digested and assimilated into the bird. The individual atoms of carbon that we're talking about, the matter, is changed into a new form, but it still exists in the system. Now let's think about the energy in this ecosystem. Solar energy from the sun struck the grass and was converted into chemical energy in the sugars it produced. The grasshopper ate the grass, and as the sugars were broken down during digestion, some of the chemical energy from the sugar was released as heat, and some of it's transformed into chemical energy in the bonds of the tissues that were created during growth. When the bird ate that grasshopper, the chemical energy from the grasshopper's tissues was released during digestion. Some of that energy was heat, and some of that energy was transformed into chemical energy in the bonds of the bird's tissues that were created. But remember, that energy changed forms as it moved through this system. It was not created or destroyed. So in this ecosystem, we saw that matter and energy both existed at the same time, but they did not convert into one another. The carbon from the carbon dioxide that was taken in by the grass was not turned into energy. The carbon from carbon dioxide that was taken in by the grass was converted into another form of matter. The carbon atoms were incorporated into sugar molecules. Similarly, the energy from the sun was not turned into sugar. The solar energy from the sun was transformed into chemical energy in the chemical bonds of the sugar. The transformation of matter and energy are actually two separate pathways, but they exist at the same time. Remember, when we're tracing matter through the system, we're talking about objects, the atoms. When we're tracing energy through the system, we're talking about the ability to do work. So as you're thinking about how biological systems are changing, remember to think about how matter and energy are transforming. When we're talking about matter, remember that we're talking about objects. Where are the atoms going? And remember that atoms can be rearranged to make new molecules, but they can never be created or destroyed. When we're talking about energy, remember that we're not talking about objects moving, we're talking about the ability to do work. And remember that energy can be transformed to make new energy types, but it cannot be created or destroyed. And think about this framework anytime you're faced with questions about change in biological systems. To explain the change, you need to be able to trace the matter in the system and trace the energy in the system. With that framework in mind, consider this question. Your friend lost 6 pounds of fat after exercising. What happened to the mass he lost? Before we answer that question, let's pause to watch a short video about what happens when you lose fat.